Every December, The Economist magazine releases a special issue called The World Ahead. It's not made for you or me, it's made for the global elite. And if history tells us anything, they don't publish these just for fun. Before COVID, before war broke out in Europe, before inflation ran wild, The Economist was already ahead of it, publishing stories, warnings, and symbolic covers that pointed to what was coming. Not loudly, not for the public, hidden in plain sight through this magazine. And the 2026 forecast issue, it's not subtle, it's not hopeful, it's a warning. It shows war, economic breakdown, syringes, pills, protests, the markets collapsing. But that's just the cover. On the inside, The Economist lays out a plan, not a prediction, for a year that could redefine America and possibly what's left of the American dream. Because 2026 isn't just another election year, it's the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. And instead of unity, they're forecasting fracture. Instead of prosperity, collapse. And instead of leadership, silence. So today, I'm not just decoding a magazine, I'm revealing what I believe the global elite are preparing for. This isn't conspiracy, this is their publication, their words, their signals. And if you've been feeling like something big is coming, then you need to pay attention. What is The Economist's World Ahead issue? The Economist isn't just another news magazine. It's been in print since 1843. It's based in London with offices scattered around key financial hubs. But don't be fooled by the bland red title or the polite British tone. This is the publication of record for the world's most powerful class, the bankers, the technocrats, the policymakers who don't answer to voters. It's read in Davos, Switzerland by the global elite, the G20. It's controlled by families like the Agnellis and the Rothschilds, and yes, they're still involved. Evelyn Rothschild chaired the group for nearly 2 decades. The ownership structure today remains unclear, but it's still likely controlled by a handful of legacy interests. This isn't conspiracy, it's public record. Every December, The Economist releases its World Ahead issue, a forecast of what's to come. But over the years, these forecasts have become something else entirely. In 2019, they hinted at global disruption, just months before COVID changed the world. In 2021, the issue spotlighted war, inflation, and social unrest. And weeks later, Russia invaded Ukraine, markets cracked, and protests exploded around the world. And in 2022, they showed Chinese President Xi Jinping on top of the world like a puppet master, signaling a power shift that's now unfolding in real time. Again and again, they don't just describe what might happen, they somehow preview what will happen. And whether that's coincidence or coordination depends on how closely you've been paying attention. This year's 2026 edition, it's not vague, it's not symbolic, it's a straight up forecast for war, collapse, and the elite's managed chaos. What The Economist is telling us about 2026. If you dig past the eerie symbolism on the cover and go straight to the contents inside, a clearer and darker picture starts to emerge. The Economist isn't just warning that 2026 may be a difficult year. They're outlining instability across every major system, economic, political, geopolitical, and they're doing it with the detached calm of someone who's already made peace with the fallout. Let's start with the big one. The collapse of the American dream. 2026 marks America's 250th anniversary, a landmark moment of national reflection. The Economist warns that the year will be defined by widely diverging accounts of America's past, present, and future, signaling deeper fractures rather than celebration. Translation: they're expecting chaos, not celebration, not patriotism, but fracture. They all but say that the great American experiment, at least in its current form, is winding down. And instead of asking, how do we fix this? They ask, who'll take the world's lead afterwards? Is this a new Cold War or something worse? The Economist doesn't dance around this. It asks whether the world is entering a new Cold War, or will a Trump-era deal carve the planet into American, Chinese, and Russian spheres of influence? And if that sounds familiar, it should. It's almost identical to the world right before World War II. It also warns of gray zone warfare, cyber attacks, underwater sabotage, Arctic territorial grabs, tactics that let nations escalate without triggering official war declarations. This is exactly what Russia and China have been doing, testing boundaries, seeing what the world will tolerate. Ukraine, Taiwan, Israel, the Middle East, Venezuela, the South China Sea. Every one of these flashpoints is mentioned or implied. The Economist isn't being alarmist. They're measured and calculated. And what they're basically saying is that continued conflict is likely. Economic breakdown. Is a bond crisis coming? Here's where things get even more unsettling. The Economist says wealthy countries, especially the United States, are living beyond their means, and the risk of a bond market crisis is growing. This isn't a fringe opinion, it's a mainstream warning that sovereign debt, the foundation of the global economy, may be on the verge of breaking. They highlight America's massive deficits, growing interest payments, and what they call fiscal illusion fading fast. It's the misconception that you can print, borrow, and inflate forever without consequence, which begs the question, if the bond market breaks, then is the dollar next? And if the dollar breaks, everything changes. They're not just warning about a recession. It's about forecasting the unraveling of a financial order that's existed since the last World War. They also highlight new biotech, cheap weight loss pills, and health surveillance technologies. It sounds innocent enough until you realize how deeply health has become intertwined with politics, behavior, and government compliance. 2 giant syringes on the cover, floating pills everywhere. The symbolism is deliberate and unsettling. They also warn about the AI investment boom, suggesting it may cover up a real economic weakness. When AI takes jobs, when money fails, when people lose faith in everything from the dollar to their medical doctor, what happens? They don't say for sure, but they say you should expect it. They don't just show collapse. They almost seem to endorse it, not through what they said, but through what they've showed and what was left unsaid. This doesn't feel like just a warning. It feels more like an unveiling, as if it's a controlled demolition. Collapse creates opportunity, but for who? Here's the truth most people miss. When the system collapses, it doesn't collapse for everyone, because for the people who built the system, the billionaires, the central bankers, the think tanks, the old money families, collapse is not a threat. It's a business strategy. Why? Because war creates obedience. War is the ultimate excuse to expand government power, to ramp up surveillance, censor dissent, and control movement, all in the name of national security. And the Economist knows this. That's why they frame war as a constant, not an exception. Think about it. If you're afraid, you'll comply. Also, economic panic centralizes control. When financial systems break, the response is always the same. More regulation, more digital tracking, more dependence on government authority. And they get the one thing they've always wanted: control, especially control over your money. And as you already know, a health crisis can shape behavior. During a pandemic, people hand over their freedom willingly. We've already seen it. They obey lockdowns, they accept what the government tells them because of fear. It's already been done, and if it worked once, it can be used again and again. Not necessarily with the same virus, but with the same blueprint. And then comes the real goal. Maybe the reset. A digital dollar, programmable money, a new financial order where what you spend, how you spend, and whether you're allowed to spend depends on whether you're following the rules. We've already seen whispers of this with CBDCs and social credit systems, which are already happening in China. And The Economist, they've been laying the intellectual framework for this kind of system for years. Collapse doesn't affect people at the top. It affects people in the middle, the working class, the savers, the ones who played by the rules. Because when the rules change, it's always after the wealthy have already adjusted. And by the time the average person realizes what's happening, the ladder's already been pulled up. This is your notice. They're not just predicting chaos. The elites are already preparing for it. And they're betting you'll be too distracted, too broke, and too divided to notice. If 2026 really is the year of collapse, like The Economist seems to suggest, then we can't afford to be caught off guard. But let's be clear about something. The Economist isn't prophetic. They're not fortune tellers. They don't need to be. They have something far more powerful: access. Access to real-time global data, the kind that you and I will never see. Access to algorithms that shape markets and sentiment. Access to policymakers who make the rules and write the loopholes. Access to central bankers, think tanks, and corporate insiders. Their editorial staff is made up of world-class analysts, people who see the macro trends before they show up on the evening news. And their prediction? They're not hidden. They're just wrapped in dense language and published quietly, where only those paying attention will notice. They show war, economic breakdown, syringes, pills, protests, the dollar or markets collapsing. And they don't show those things because they're imagining them. They show them because that's where the data leads. And more importantly, because that's where policy decisions are already heading. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm here to try to help you think. If the people at the top are preparing for volatility, disruption, and collapse, then maybe it's time the rest of us stop pretending this is business as usual. And no, you can't fix the system, but you can stop being surprised by it. That's your edge. Live below your means, own real assets, build local strength, and be ready for anything. 2026 is coming. They've shown us what to expect. The rest is up to you. If this video resonated with you, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I make videos like this one to help everyday people see through the noise and protect what matters. And consider supporting the channel with a membership. It really helps out. Thank you so much. And if you want to know how to best survive an economic collapse, then you need to check out my video right up here. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.